video. Okay, so now let's do the live I was planning to do. Okay, cool. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for helping me out. Okay, so I was going to talk about self-awareness, and this whole year has been about personal learning, and the learning's been really about um trusting myself, but trusting myself is all fun and good on the inside, but at some stage, it's got to become action. So self awareness is only as good as what action am I taking? Okay. And confidence comes from authenticity of knowing yourself. Okay. So the more I practice interoception, which is knowing myself, listening to my heart, listening to my gut, sitting with my thoughts, the more I'm able to make choices that are authentic. But as all of you will know that have listened to me before, this is not a multiple choice question where there's only one right answer. It's not about, do I follow my heart, or do I listen to my gut, or do I go with that great idea that I'm considering? What I'm really looking for when I'm going within, where I'm focusing on my self-awareness, is building up that place of alignment internally where I align my thoughts, my emotions, and my actions. And the one thing I wanted to say is that at the same time as I'm working on aligning all of that, just remember that you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker. You're not your feelings. You're the feeler. You are not even your actions. Instead, you are the doer. And I think that's really important when we're looking at this, to understand that difference. That it's not just how am I feeling? It's not just how I'm thinking, but what am I then doing? And how am I being in the world? So I'm going to go out on a limb here and disagree with Tony Robbins and some of the others that say that mindset is 80% of the formula to success. And the reason I disagree is that mindset work will only work for you when you've already aligned your mindset and you've got clarity on your desires and your values, when you align your thoughts, your creativity, your perception with that mindset, and when you've gone in and that mindset works with your identity, your boundaries, and the source of motivation. And in that case, yes, mindset is 80% of the formula to success. But if you didn't do all of that inner work first, you've got the ladder leaning against the wrong wall. And there's no point in chasing a great idea if it's not a great idea for you. So self-awareness is going to allow you to own it. If this is mine, do I desire completely to commit to this? And in order to trust yourself, you've got to know yourself. You have to know this is what I want. And so self-awareness is going to lead you to better decision making. It also leads to better self-control and even improves our interaction with others. Okay? And so I want to mention quickly, there's two types of self-awareness, and they're not necessarily the same. You can have one kind of self-awareness and not have the other. Okay? So the self-awareness that I'm really talking about today is internal self-awareness. And this is you monitoring and knowing your inner world. And so it's really getting in touch with your values, your priorities, what's really important to you. It's knowing your passions and desires. It's being in tune with your emotional reactions and even your trigger points. Who sets you off? What sets you off? It's looking at your relationships from the perspective, how do you relate to yourself and how are you relating to others? It's also knowing your thoughts and the way that you're processing the world. Okay. At the same time, you're going to be looking at how do you analyze and rationalize? Okay. What lens are you looking through? What's your perception and perspectives when you look out into the world? What is also your sense of identity? Who am I? What are your boundaries? And are you risk adverse, or are you willing to step outside your comfort zone? And this is all part of that inner world. And when you truly know yourself, you can build that authentic life of satisfaction and happiness because you know who you are and what you want. External self-awareness, on the other hand, okay, is being really clear and aware of looking through other people's eyes. It's the ability to see how other people perceive you. And this can be both a strength and a weakness. So at its best, someone who can look at themselves through the eyes of others can become a great leader, build excellent relationships with those around them, okay? Unfortunately, at its worst, you become a people pleaser. You're busy trying to live up to other people's expectations, completely abandoning yourself. So external self-awareness is going to give you empathy because you see yourself through their eyes. And then when you see how you're treating them and you relate to other people from their perspective, it's incredibly powerful or crippling if you're using it for people pleasing. So I want to talk about how self-awareness is going to allow you to change, okay? How it allows you to tap into your gut instinct and readily follow your heart, okay? So when you understand the strengths and the weaknesses of your habits, and you can then choose to interrupt the loop of thoughts, feelings, actions more effectively. Where are you going to interrupt the loop? Are you going to interrupt your feelings? Are you going to interrupt your thoughts and that overthinking loop? Are you going to interrupt the habits, the actions that you're consistently taking that aren't serving you? And this is where your self-awareness becomes really powerful for change. Okay? This mindfulness is, well, what do I think about this? What am I feeling right now? The question we don't often ask ourselves is, can I express myself openly with those around me, or am I clamming up? How do I create safety so that I actually express myself? Most of us are probably more regularly standing up for our values, standards, and priorities. But what if we're not? What's your self-care? And also, when it even comes to mindfulness, does your mindfulness encompass pursuing your goals? What is the point of mindfulness if you're not using it actively out in the world? Okay? So if you're merely self-aware and mindful, but you're not using this insight to make changes, what growth are you noticing in your life? Okay? Because the reality is that the whole purpose of any of this is that we are going to truly make changes out there. Okay? So, in decision making, let's say that you made a mistake, but how are you going to respond in the future when you're faced with a similar situation? It's going to provide you with more confidence. You know your mind, you trust your gut, you know your heart's desires. Rather than getting caught up in overthinking in a loop, you allow this mistake to pass, but you make choices for the future. Okay? We all need that place of inner peace that is going to foster inner wisdom. And the inner wisdom is going to come hand in hand with the self-awareness. Okay? When you have inner peace, when you've got that place of calm within, you can filter out the noise, the chatter. You release the emotions more efficiently. You notice what's getting stuck. Okay? And when you can notice what is getting stuck, then of course you can do something about it. Okay? Until you notice what's getting stuck. Trust, yes. Trust is, let me just answer this question from Steve. Okay. Trust is really tough if you aren't living from a place of self-awareness. When you start living from that place of self-awareness, trust builds up. And I'm going to talk about the four components of trust in just a minute, because I think that that's really the essence of making changes. Okay. First, you're going to get into a space of calm. Get rid of all the noise. Okay. And then you're going to use that place of self-awareness from a place of calm. Okay. I don't want any one of us to choose head over heart over gut, the same way I don't want you to choose your heart over the wisdom of your head. Okay. I want your heart to lead, but to be aligned with the power of your mind. And I want you to trust your gut. Okay. Now, Gratsu Salu says that there's four components to trusting yourself. One is compassion and caring. The second one is consistency. The third is communication. And the fourth is competence. And you'll find a whole lot of articles out in the world that talk about these components of trust, okay? Because without these four components, you're not going to get a whole lot. So the first component of trust is compassion. And compassion is, we know it as love your neighbor as yourself. But there is no loving your neighbor if you don't first love yourself. Okay? And I like to visualize compassion as breathing. You're never going to be able to exhale more than what you inhale. And so if compassion for others is exhaling, breathing out, first you've got to inhale compassion for yourself, because you're never going to have enough for others if you first don't fill that cup. Okay? So I want you to notice how compassionate you are. Are your thoughts, is that inner critic compassionate or constantly judging and harsh? Do you have loving kindness in your mind for yourself or only for others? When you're looking at the different perspectives and points of view, when you look at the world, is that compassionate? When you relate to yourself, can you relate to yourself with love and compassion, with kindness? Okay. Consider a moment, for example, when emotions are running high. Okay. Are you quick to shut those emotions down, or do you honor them? And what would it mean to you if you're sad and grieving to be compassionate with yourself? Would you continue to try and push through, or would you take a moment to feel your feelings? Think about a moment when you've been really successful. Do you push harder or take time to stop and celebrate? If you're fearful, could you be compassionately courageous? And what does it mean to face your fear with compassion and courage? How do you treat yourself when you're tired and you're worn down. So self-awareness, like I said, is taking note of how you're thinking, feeling, and acting throughout the day, being mindful, okay? But be mindful with compassion. Make a change that is compassionate. Next, of course, is consistency. Consistency will build trust. Are you consistently mindful? Are you consistently self-aware? And this is where mindfulness practice becomes so powerful. You regularly take time to mind your thoughts, okay? You regularly take time to notice your gut instinct when it kicks in and says, well, wait a minute, there's danger. There's a boundary that somebody's about to cross, and I don't want to go there. There's risk here. Let's stop. Okay? To build trust, you've got to start listening to those inner whispers. You've got to start saying, well, wait a minute, I will consistently listen. And that consistency also is, how consistently do I listen to the inner critic? And how consistently do I harbor and hug and protect my inner child? Perhaps you consistently avoid pain with distraction, and you're staying in hustle and busy and consistently saying stressed and anxious. Well, is that really helping you? So today's question for you is, what are you practicing consistently? Are you building trust? Or are you consistently distrusting yourself? And so my invitation today with self-awareness is that consistency is being mindful of messages of your heart, of your gut, and of your mind. The next thing I want you to be mindful of is communication. Okay? And there are so many ways that you can raise your inner awareness and communicate with your heart, with your gut, and your mind. And the list I'm going to give you is not exhaustive, okay? So it's more than just being alone with your thoughts, but I want you to think about different ways that you can get in touch with your heart, with your gut, with your mind, okay? One of the ones that I've discovered recently through an M-braining course, which has been absolutely amazing. It's a 22-week course I'm doing on M-braining, and oh my goodness, every week is something new. But one of the things that we did in the last week or so was take out go and buy a stethoscope, but take out your stethoscope and sit and listen to your heart. And tune in with the different emotions that come up. And it takes practice. It's not something that I could do the first time. Once again, consistency and compassion and patience for myself as I'm playing with emotions. Okay? I just sit and listen with my heart. Obviously, journaling is a great way to get in touch with your thoughts and feelings and perspectives, especially if you practice, listen to this word again, consistently. You'll start to notice the patterns. You'll start to see your point of view. You'll start to ask yourself questions, okay? And I want to give you a wonderful exercise that I learned this year from Artist's Way, which I'm sitting here going, why did I not already know that? Okay. In the evening, I write down in my journal a question that I want my subconscious and my heart and my gut to ponder overnight, that I want to sleep on. And then first thing in the morning, take out your journal, look at the questions and answer them. Write down without really thinking about the answer what is coming up. And I am amazed about the answers that come up. You probably all know mindfulness and meditation. So how often do you practice being mindful of just watching your thoughts or watching your emotions? Okay. Another mindfulness practice I do is somatic awareness. It's a body scan. I start at the top of my head and I work down. I notice, where am I tense? I notice what emotions I'm feeling. I notice what's happening in my body. Okay. Another mindfulness practice I have that gets me in touch with heart and gut is putting my right hand on my heart and my left hand on my gut and just sitting. What do I notice from my heart? What do I notice from my belly? Okay. And another thing I practice is a conversation between ego and self. Now, for me, my experience is that my sense of self sits deep in my gut, just below solar plexus above my belly button. But for every single person, that place of self is probably different within your gut. And it's a case of each person needs to find it. But my sense of self is definitely not in my head. So I sit in my gut and I allow that sense of self to communicate with my ego, that image of myself that I have in my head, and allow them to get on the same page. It is not about getting rid of ego, but rather bringing ego into alignment with that deep sense of self. Okay? Now, sometimes obviously the messages of gut and heart are really obvious. You'll get that gut wrenching sense of, ugh, okay? Or you might get your heart skips a beat. Or you might get tightening of your chest or other physiological responses. What are they? Can you listen? And what is being communicated? Okay. The next thing I want you to consider is competence. And this one probably takes a little bit more fine tuning and explanation, because what is competence when it's your emotions? You don't feel your emotions in your head. You make sense of them in your head. You notice what's going on. You have self-awareness in your head of, oh, this is what I'm feeling, but you don't feel your emotions in your head. In the same way, you don't experience your gut instinct in your thoughts. Your head kicks in and goes, oh, wait a minute, that was my gut talking. Well, what was it saying? So in competence, and when you're trying to build trust, the invitation I have for you is to allow each part of your body to do its job to the best of its ability. So your body, your head, is going to make sense and meaning. It's going to interpret what's coming up from the body, letting you know what those messages are. But stop trying to tell yourself from your head how you should feel, and allow yourself instead to notice what you actually feel. Okay? Let your head make sense and meaning of the feelings rather than telling your body what you're supposed to. Okay? So at the same time, remember that what you're thinking about is going to influence your feelings. So if you're in a loop of feelings and emotions because of thoughts that you're having, you can either break the emotional loop or you can break the thought loop. Okay? Where do you want to interrupt the pattern? Do you want to stop overthinking, or do you want to change your emotional state? Could even be a change of posture, a physiological state that breaks the state and allows you to get out of that overthinking pattern. So one of the points of competence is that you let your head do the planning and the analyzing, but you allow your heart to say, these are my desires and these are my values. And then with wise compassion, you follow your heart. Okay? You listen to the gut instinct when it kicks in. How can you drum up courage from your gut to then move forward? So you've got to trust yourself when every part of you is doing what it does best. Okay? So I want to finish with well-being is an inside job. Okay? So the self-awareness is the first step of knowing your feelings, your thoughts, your actions, but it creates opportunity, like I said, for change, for doing things. As you compassionately communicate with your head, heart, and gut, as you consistently listen to your inner wisdom, you build your well-being by working with all parts of you in balance. Okay? It's not competing head against gut. Sometimes it's finding a solution that's outside the box that head, gut, and heart can agree on. Okay? And so this is so much more than mindset. Okay? It's allowing your heart to feel. It's allowing your mind to give you the gift of creativity, to look at all the different perspectives and points of view, to analyze and rationalize, and then visualize and create a plan based on that inner wisdom of what you want to guide your hopes and dreams. And you're going to still come in and make sure that that is aligned with your gut, that deep sense of self. Okay? It's listening when gut instinct kicks in, when you're uncomfortable with a risk or a choice, and honoring that. Okay? What if there's a better way to do this that doesn't put this at risk? Can you come up with a brand new solution that still allows you to meet the goal, but perhaps is a different path? Okay? And so what I'm inviting you to do today is to thrive from the inside out rather than trying to do all of this simply from a state of mindset. Okay? So, any questions before I go? All right, Steve, any questions? Willie, any questions? I'm not sure who the third person is, so I don't know who the third person is to ask if they have any questions. If there's any questions, this is the time to ask me. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to say I'm done. What was that noise again, Steve? That was the from the gut. Consistency first. Yes. If you're not consistently listening, consistently self-aware, it's going to be really hard to make changes. And I'm not great at this. I still struggle every day to journal. I don't journal every day. Let's be honest. I don't. I have a good intention to journal every day, but there are days where I avoid it. Okay? Because I don't want to know what I'm feeling, or I don't want to know what the next right step forward is, because I really don't want to do that. Okay? I would love to say I've got these four completely underhand. No, I'm still working on it. It's not set in stone of, oh my gosh, I'm doing all of this well. Okay? I am getting better at being compassionate. I am getting much better at listening to my heart and my gut. I'm getting way more consistent at doing all of that. And I am getting really good at the part of competency of letting my heart do the feeling, of letting my gut do what it does best in boundaries and telling me what's safe and what's not safe. And letting my head then come up with all the ideas and the creativity rather than a head overthinking and manipulating situations. I'm getting way better at that, but I still need to consistently do the communication and the self-compassion. Okay. I'm not entirely there yet. That doesn't mean that I don't have something to share with you. Okay. Yes. And interrupting those negative patterns. Absolutely. Okay. Consistently seeing what the pattern is in order to interrupt it. Well, I am going to leave you guys with this because I have gone way over the time I intended. I was going to keep this under, at about 20 minutes. Well, it was a little more than 20 minutes, but we'll figure that one out later. Have a great afternoon. Thank you guys for being with me. And I am making no promises as to when the next live is.